welcome to part 2 of our creepy Victorian build. I've got a few photos of where we left out from the first part, which is a lot of the exterior decorating and a lot of the exterior pieces. This is sort of what we ended up with, which I think looks really great. I love all the windows and I love this dramatic tower. It's still one of my favorite parts about this build, but today we're going to be really looking at the inside. And I think one of the first things that you really got to think about when you're doing a Victorian is the layout. Victorian houses really have separate spaces for all of the activities. It's not really something you see in modern. We tend to sort of like having open spaces. You see a lot of like decorating shows where they're like, we're going to open everything up and get rid of all these walls. But I think that's one of the really nice things about Victorian houses. They're designed to be separate spaces. They're designed to be a lot easier to heat. There's some practical like applications behind having these smaller rooms. It's because it's a lot easier to heat a small room with a fireplace or with a radiator heater than it is to heat this whole big space. Also a lot less expensive. So if you are looking to save some money this winter, maybe think about if you could put up some curtains or maybe a door between your rooms to kind of be inspired by our Victorian fellows. So I think that's one really nice thing about Victorian houses. Also, speaking of that, you probably wouldn't have these archways in a Victorian house because that would make it a lot less efficient to heat. But what I really like to think about this house is it's a remodeled Victorian. So this has taken this house, which was, functioned as this beautiful old Victorian. It was a tavern for lots of decades, and now they're trying to redo it so that it's kind of back to its former glory, but we also have some cool modern amenities in it, like these archways, which open up the space a little bit and also make it look really nice. I love these archways. Right now you'll see we're working on the living room, or I'm sorry, the dining room. And I just wanted to point out this wallpaper, which has bats on it, which I love. It came from the vampire pack. I love bats. I have a tattoo of a bat on my leg. I just think they're really cool and they're cute and they like make weird noises. And I just think they're a really cool animal. So I love bats. I love this wallpaper. I really love wallpaper in real life. My husband does not like wallpaper in real life, so we always kind of joke about how if we do end up buying a house, we're going to have a bunch of wallpaper all over. And he's going to have to either convince me not to put it up or he's going to end up liking it. So I'm hoping that I'm hoping that he ends up liking it because I love wallpaper. I think these cabinets here in the kitchen are just so fun. I didn't actually know that you could do different cabinets. You have to do the auto counters off, and then you can sort of select different types of cabinets, especially ones to put up on the top. And a lot of those ones that you can choose have these really cool like dishes in the corner. So I think that's such a nice little detail, and I love experimenting with those. I love this green kitchen. I feel like you can't use this green too often. I feel like it doesn't really go with a whole lot of builds, but I felt like it fit perfectly with this Victorian build. And I really love that it sort of carried the green from the dining room into the kitchen. And I think it was really nice to sort of be able to use this fun color of cabinet stuff. I love color. My own personal taste is very colorful, and I have a lot of, I don't know, maybe it'd be considered for decorating, but I really like it. So I like adding color wherever I can, and it's fun in The Sims because it doesn't really matter. So it's really fun for me to have a lot of color. And I love this like sort of absurd refrigerator. It is from the Magic Pack, I think, and it's just sort of this silly refrigerator that has all of these details on it, which is really fun. So now I'm sort of working through some of these other areas. You'll notice here that I put this really fancy parquet flooring in the living room. Or sorry, not the living room, the parlor. We should call it what it is, which is the parlor. And that's because the parlor in a lot of Victorian houses is going to be your sort of fanciest area where you have friends over and where you have people that you want to impress over into the parlor. That's where you might like entertain people. And so the parlor was often one of the nicest places in the house. You had some of the best woodworking and some of the best details, and that was usually all in the parlor. And now I'm shifting over towards the observatory. The things I really like about this build is sort of the dark colors and the sort of brooding atmosphere. And so I was experimenting with maybe something a little bit lighter in here, but I eventually ended up with this red, which I think just complements really well. The green come from the kitchen, and it kind of has that same jewel tone as the blue over in this little study area. So I think it's just really nice. I love how all those colors sort of complement and go together. And of course, I had to put as many plants in this observatory as I possibly could. I feel like it's probably not very safe to have these candles with all the plants, but oh well, I just put the plants with the candles, so it's maybe it will start a fire. I guess I didn't really think about whether the candle lamp would start a fire. I was like, oh, it's The Sims, it'll be fine, but oh, maybe it will start a fire. So I guess if you guys end up using this house in any of your plays, you'll have to be careful about those fire lamps. Um, I tried to just really put as many flowers in here as I could. I did end up using a few actual spaces on that table. You can use kind of the move objects to sort of trick the game into not having anything on the table, but I think I did end up using a few of those spaces, but I did sort of overstuff it with a little clutter by using the move objects cheat. But everything in the house should be totally usable. I did go through and test everything, so if you are interested in having this house and using this house in one of your games, it's just under my creator name, which is K-Straps, and you're welcome to go download it and play it. I think it's a really fun, beautiful house. It's got such a dramatic mood to it, and I think it would be fun, maybe for a vampire game, but also just for like a family maybe who is interested in fixing up an old manor. I think a lot about Instagram sites like cheap old houses. Like maybe this house was featured on cheap old houses as sort of dilapidated, needing a lot of renovation, and this is what the young couple who took it on decided to do is make it into this really beautiful living space with a couple of bedrooms, a couple of bathrooms, and this really nice sort of master bathroom with its own bathroom attached here. I use a lot of the vampire detailings in this dark wood. I think it's a really pretty color, and I think it ends up looking really nice. And I feel like you gotta have some really dramatic mirrors in your like bedroom area. So this is one of those spots that I decided to do that at. One of my favorite things in The Sims actually is decorating bathrooms. So I'm kind of gonna start I'm working on the like vanity area right now, but I really love decorating bathrooms. I think it's really fun. I don't really know why I like it so much. I really love tile. I think tile is really cool, and I feel like tile fits well into bathrooms, so maybe that's why I really like decorating bathrooms, but I always have a fun time doing it. I skipped over a lot of the detail in the video, but you can see that it turned out really nice. It's got this very dramatic feel. I used lots of tile because I love tile. And you've still got this sort of full bathroom with the shower and the toilet and the sink, so you've got lots of room in there for a more modern family. Even though you probably, in a real historic house, you probably wouldn't have a shower and that much plumbing on the second floor because it would have been pretty technologically difficult back in the late 1800s. My parents actually, when I was growing up, I lived in a historic farmhouse kind of in rural Central America. And when they purchased the house, it was really kind of dilapidated and it wasn't doing super great. And they actually added a bathroom on the second floor. But in order to get a tub up to the second floor, they had a neighbor put a bathtub in a tractor, up part of the tractor, and they lifted it up into the second floor with that tractor through a window that they took out. So that gives you some idea of how much they actually had to fix up that old farmhouse before it was livable. So that was that's a story. I was too young to remember that when they did that, of course, but that's a fun story that my mom likes to tell about redoing this old farmhouse in the middle of nowhere with our neighbor's tractor helps. That was good. I imagine that this house, along with the young family that decided to, redo this Victorian, there's a couple of kids rooms. So I think there's probably room for a couple of kids here. And I kind of imagine them as like two girls, like one's a little tomboy and one's a little bit more traditionally feminine. So she's got this really sort of traditionally feminine room, and then maybe the other girl is a little bit more into sports and darker colors, and so she's got the sort of darker over here to the side. But I think you could really easily redo those details in these rooms if you didn't like those particular details because it just kind of colors and otherwise pretty general room for modern kids. Got some posters on the wall. You've got backpack. You've got a book and a desk ready to do some homework at. So I think that would be a pretty nice little bedroom. I love this really fancy carpet. Along with wallpaper, I love sort of over-the-top carpet. So please pray for my husband when I do eventually decorate my own house. It might be a little crazy, so I have to remember to kind of keep my eye on it sometimes. Like, okay, that's enough detail. That's maybe a little bit too much sometimes. I did do this fun little Jack and Jill. I guess it would be I don't know, is it still a Jack and Jill bathroom if it's like for two girls? I don't know. I suppose it doesn't really matter, but I've got this sort of like Jack and Jill style bathroom. I suppose that's maybe what I'll call it. In the middle here um, for the two kids. And now here I'm decorating the tower. I think the tower decoration was probably one of my favorite parts. I had to kind of think about like what would be fun in here, like maybe a telescope or maybe some painting, but I ended up doing this dramatic organ, which I thought would be really fun to have in this top tower so that you can kind of like play the organ. And it'll be a little bit like a bell at the top of the tower. Maybe your neighbors hear you dramatically playing the organ on the top floor sometimes. So that's kind of what I ended up choosing at the top floor. And this room, I really didn't know what else to do with it. I thought about making it like maybe like a library or a reading nook, but we already have a library on the first floor, so I kind of just turned it into this fun little like smoking room. I don't know, I felt like maybe, or I guess bubble blowing room. I thought maybe that would be kind of a Victorian thing to do is have a special smoking room. Um, but now I'm going back to the outside. I didn't really do a whole lot on this side of the house when I was doing the original outdoor decorating, and because I kind of wanted to save this little part for a fun like backyard area for folks. So I ended up adding a hot tub, which I really like. And I think this is definitely one of those details that the family who's fixing the house up decided that they really wanted um, a hot tub in the backyard, and so I went ahead and added that. I did use a little bit of this fun fencing. I just felt like, I don't know, I thought it was cool, but it didn't really fit anywhere else in the house, so I just added it a little bit of detail right there. So maybe the hot tub would look a little bit more dramatic in the back. And I love these lights that came. I think this is from the city pack. I think they look really cute. They add a lot of ambiance to outdoor areas, so I like to try to use those when and now we're getting into some of the landscaping. I think a lot of the times for flowers, because there's not really any functional need for your Sims to access the flowers, I think you can just kind of go crazy with them. That's what I like to do. I just like to add a bunch of flowers. I like to add, this is like a little formal rose garden area that I think would fit into a Victorian house. I think just kind of adding a lot of texture and a lot of layers with the flowers makes it look really nice. I tried to stay with sort of like a color palette in mind, so I have a lot of whites and purples and pinks and reds. So I just kind of tried to stay within that color palette to sort of make the garden mesh all together. But you can see, like, I just like to add a bunch of layers, a bunch of stuff, so that it just looks really lush and it looks really beautiful and it looks really nice. So that's sort of what I wanted to do here. And I love this. I love that mailbox. I think that is such a cute mailbox. I'm so happy about that. I'm going through and I'm adding a few things. I always forget sometimes when I'm doing builds, like garbage cans and mailboxes and that kind of stuff. So it's always important to try to put that stuff in there. I did add a little garbage can on the outside too. So hopefully that's all fully functional for folks. And now we're kind of getting back into these flowers. I think I don't really like having just like brown underneath the flowers, like for the dirt, which I think sometimes looks nice, but I also like to add a little bit of texture. So I was really trying to make this sort of like a dramatic oasis in the back. And now we're getting into just some screenshots. So you'll see here are some really cute little photos of the rest of the house. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. I had such a fun time making this house, and I am looking forward to doing more historic builds in the future. So thanks so much for watching. I hope you have a great afternoon or morning or whatever it is, wherever you are. And please like and subscribe if you want to see more. Thank you so much.